I'm using, there we go.
Hey,
There we go. There we go.
there you
How are
are.
you, my friend? Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Awesome. I'm also good. Thank you.
I, where are
It
you right
is,
now?
I'm in an ashram, in the middle of India in a place called Narsinghpur.
Wow.
And, it's 3:30 a.m. So, yeah, um, made an early start.
Oh my goodness. If you would have let me know you were on such a different time frame, yeah, I would have definitely woken up early
No,
to meet you.
not at all, not at all, not at all. I normally get up. I'm normally up at 4:30. So getting up an hour earlier was not
Are
so
you
much of a deal.
so you're still doing your pilgrimage across India? Is that the case?
No, I'm actually not. I've been at this ashram for the last 2 months or so, 2.5 months. Um, but I'm gonna actually start doing that walk again. Chris, it was just such an incredible experience, that my plan is to actually go around and walk that circumference again.
That's amazing.
So
I
I
love
will,
watching
yeah.
your videos on the Walking with the Sadhu channel. Your videos are beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. That's I appreciate that.
It looks like you've gotten a lot out of it too. Like I just watched that video titled, I think, Lessons Learned from Ma Narmada.
Oh, my Narmada, yes, okay.
And it seems to me, at least how you're explaining it, that your vision is truly clarified.
Yes, Chris, I think that is happening, and that's one of the reasons why I feel that I want to deepen this experience and go and do another walk. The situation just gives me so much opportunity to, well, for one, be on my own. I'm in Mother Nature. Lots of time for walking meditation, contemplation, and what I like to term is being in the presence of God. I mean,
Mm.
it has that sense, and so yeah, that's one of the reasons that I just feel that I haven't finished this journey. I want to go back and do that again.
No, that's beautiful. I mean, people find this sense of intimacy with what they perceive as God or the ultimate divine nature of things in all sorts of different experiences. Some people find it in nature. I do as well. That was my kind of gateway
Yeah,
into this. Me being
yeah,
a wildlife biologist, that's kind of why I went down that path, is because that's when I find also this intimacy with this sort of divine essence. A lot of people find it in
right,
church or prayer or meditation or just while walking as
right,
you seem to have. And so that's
right.
beautiful that you've discovered kind of your personal doorway to this. And I think that that's kind of what everybody's task here is to find the doorway that suits them into this, because we all kind of are looking as this divine infinite at this divine infinite, but from slightly different or what seems to be localized perspectives. And so our
Right.
doorways will always be somewhat slightly shifted from the next perspective.
This veil that I so often refer to in my messages to you, that I'm trying to pierce this veil. I kind of have a sense that in nature that veil uh, thin gets a little thinner for me.
Mm.
It's almost as though the not having the distractions of everyday life that most people have, and I'm very fortunate in that I'm in this time of my life where I can do this, where I can be walking and being on a pilgrimage of this nature. Most people in the household, the situation where they're up dealing with the children, making breakfast, getting them to school. I think that's, those distractions I don't have. So I can be a lot more, uh, I can be intimate with nature. And as you said a little, that really is a gateway for me, I feel.
Is there any sense of like a prompt or a mantra that works for you? I'm not a big mantra guy, but oftentimes like we can find a prompt that really works for us. Like One of the ones that I like the most is like when you're just there, anywhere, experiencing anything, asking yourself, what is looking through these eyes, or what knows this experience? What is here aware of this?
Hmm. Chris, I'm also not someone who's been big with mantra or the use of mantra. So, yeah, in India they call that japa, as you probably know. So it's not something that really works for me. But
Not even so much, not even so much as a mantra, but just like if you ask yourself right now, what essence knows this? The conversation that's happening between you and me right now, what essence knows this?
um, I mean, the sense of it for me is that it's deep within, um, and there is a knowing. There, there is a knowing, but I feel that there's a knowing. There's a knowing intellectually, but there's also a deeper knowing, and that knowing intellectually is always something that I feel that I need to get behind, or yeah, behind is probably the word that comes to mind
Since
in terms of trying to describe where I need to go.
after watching your videos, I feel like I kind of have permission from you to be as direct as possible because it's clear to me that
Absolutely.
you are ready to kind of let go of this veil, as you call it, or this illusion of self,
Mm.
as you call it. And so,
Yeah.
returning to this question, what essence knows this now moment? And then investigating what that actually means. For example, looking at your room around you right now, the essence that sees this, the essence that knows this room, is it separate from the room that it knows? Intellectually, you'll say, of course it's separate. The walls are over there and I'm over here. There's a distance, a measurable distance.
Mm.
But if we talk about the fact that consciousness is the only reality you can ever know, is anything that you know, including the walls and distance, actually separate from that consciousness?
No.
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 And you are just this consciousness.
Mm.
Walking around like this, the separation or the veil that you call completely dissolves.
Mm. I I find that there are times when I can hold that space. So often difficult to articulate these things, but to hold that space or to be in that in in this moment as you're describing and as I'm speaking about it is to be conscious of that, but that I don't always hold that. That it seems to it's and I have and there's constant work to keep doing that. It's not. Does that make any sense?
It does. But
Okay.
investigate with me. The one that's holding on to that knowledge, is that one also seen?
Yes.
It's seen just like everything else is seen.
Yes.
It's just
Absolutely.
it's just your investment in that being yourself, that one holding on to this vision, being who you are, that keeps this sort of contracted identity apart from everything else.
Mm.
But the more you can kind of zoom out a little bit and see that, no, this one that's trying to hold on to this idea of the realized self or the vision of the realized self, the one that's trying to get that is also seen. from this essence that's already radically free. This essence that knows this now moment is already radically free and could never be contained by the one trying to hold on to it.
Right.
The one trying
That's
to hold
it.
on to this can never grasp at anything. It will always only be able to hold on to ideas. That is the function of mind, and that's all it can do.
Yeah.
The essence that knows the activity of mind is already what you are, is already radically free. Realizing that is your true self is self-realization.
Yeah. You used a lovely phrase, and that is zooming out. Um, and that I resonate with that, but I don't know why and how. It just, there's something about it. It has a, for me, it has a sense of looking from a slightly, I suppose, different perspective. I don't know, that sense of zooming out. Um, I need to explore that a little.
Yeah. Well, that is essentially kind of what happens because right now, when you feel very identified with this Ronnie self, with this Chris self, consciousness seems to be so heavily involved that it can't see that it's also outside of this Chris or Ronnie self. It can't see that it's this, everything that it sees. It can't see that it's also this. But by zooming out, you're kind of
Yeah.
the Ronnie mind or the Chris mind is kind of like a prism through which infinite consciousness is looking. And so when infinite consciousness is looking through the prism, all it sees is the life of Ronnie, the life of Chris. But when
Right.
infinite consciousness zooms back just a little bit and sees that it is not the prism of mind, nor is it the life of Ronnie, the life of
Yeah.
Chris, but it's actually all of this. It's not just this, it's all of this. And so the zooming out into a more panoramic awareness
Yeah.
is in reality what this self-realization or awakening feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. I resonate with that. I mean, is there? I mean, is there anything more you can say to me about that in terms of that slight stepping back? Is there something? Is there a practice? Is there a yeah? Anything else you can say about that, Chris?
Yeah, so what I originally said was what knows this now moment, and that kind of like brings the now moment, and it includes everything you see, but that also includes your vision of self or your identification with self, as well as all the thoughts and feelings that happen in this body mind. And so if you ask yourself what knows this thought, what knows this feeling, what knows this sensation, it zooms you back out prior to the prism of mind.
Yeah.
You're zooming back out into this panoramic awareness that knows all of this equally and doesn't identify with any particular focal point within it. That's the
Yeah.
process of awakening, is
Yeah.
is first detaching yourself from this prism of mind known as
Yeah.
Ronnie, known as
Yeah.
Chris. First detaching. That's just so you can get a clear glimpse of all of this. What is actually happening here
Yeah.
is just the condensation of consciousness. And then as
Yeah.
you as that solidifies, becomes your new standpoint, then you can zoom back in and play in the life of Ronnie. And you understand now that this is all just modulations of one single substance.
Yeah.
This is all just consciousness, whether it's a taste, whether it's a thought, whether it's a feeling, whether it's the vision of the mountain way over there. It's all just consciousness.
Yeah.
And you are just the consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose that question is just, what is sensing this? What is knowing this? It's just something that that should be a default. I should just constantly be stepping back and asking that question.
That's my recommendation, yes.
Yeah.
Constantly
Yeah.
ask yourself, especially when you feel really heavily identified in a particular moment. You know,
Right.
sometimes our most uh, difficult challenges in any given situation, whether it's like an actual, like very sharp pain, or it's a hardship in life, or these like hardships, or whether you see somebody suffering and you feel really bad for them, you feel like an outpouring of compassion for them. Investigate that feeling to its depth. Oftentimes,
Mm.
these things that are felt as very intense energies, the more we can move towards them and ask, what knows this? The more we're bringing a sort of harmony into a tense situation and dissipating those discordant energies. This is really how saints heal.
Yeah.
They introduce harmony into a discordant vibration, and in that discordant vibration is allowed to dissipate without a friction. Because if you're not introducing a friction into a disharmony, there's nothing for the disharmony to bounce against and cause a fire, so it dissipates.
Right.
So this is all about becoming just that single field from which everything arises.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that that is just something that I don't do enough of, is just constantly be asking myself that question. Who is sensing this? Where, I mean, I'm aware of that, but I need to deepen that. I need to
Yeah,
deepen that as a practice.
it could be a good practice. The one thing that I'd also just want to make you aware of is that this isn't a pushing away of experience. You know, by asking
Right.
ourselves what knows this moment, it's not that we're like saying the moment is distant from us.
Right.
It's actually just
Right.
clarifying what the substance of this moment is, and that
Right.
is consciousness. And in that, then you can fully taste the full flavor because
Yeah.
you're no longer looking through this film layer of mind. You know what this ends up being is you're experiencing reality rawly without an interpretive model of mind. There's no longer an assumption of what this taste is, what this feeling is.
Yeah.
There's no interpretation of this. There's just
Yeah.
pure and raw experience. As you realize what knows this, you realize that it's the substance itself that knows this.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I find myself just glancing around this room all the time right now.
That's how this
um,
goes. That's
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting actually in the dining hall of this ashram, and in front of me on the right hand side here is a big bowl of fresh bananas, and I can smell them. I mean, I'm just, I'm trying to absorb um, exactly what you've been saying to me, and sensing all of these things around me with all the senses, and really being mindful of them, and being awake to them, being awake to what is experiencing this. Um, yeah, Chris, there are times that it feels that um, I'm doing this, that it is so, uh, it's just right here. And yet I'm there. It's almost as though there's just going to be just something's going to happen that is going to almost get me to see things differently. And I'm anticipating that. And I don't know if I'm anticipating that too. Maybe I should just not anticipate that at all and just rather go back to asking myself constantly, who's experiencing this? Where's, and not have that sense of anticipation that I'm just suddenly going to see things 180 degrees. It's going to be a different way of looking. Does that make any sense?
Totally. I would recommend letting go of that sense of
Right,
anticipation, only because
right,
that is looking at this through a contracted energy,
right.
through the
Yeah,
prism of mind.
absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
who
yeah,
would what you want to ultimately realize with this is that the one that was anticipating never existed in the first place. It was always
right,
just a contraction of this infinite field of consciousness that wanted to
right.
know infinite consciousness. The
Yeah,
contraction can never know its own nature, although ultimately it's made of it.
right.
And and
Absolutely.
and
So,
actually, so just yeah, just continue to investigate your direct experience. Like that scent of bananas, for example, to clarify that experience a little bit more for you, understand that there's no one actually smelling the bananas. There's no one
right,
interpreting the scent of bananas. There's just the scent of bananas.
right.
The more we kind of leapfrog over this illusion that there's an interpreting happening here and just rejoin into a real experience, real raw reality, there's just the scent of bananas. That's it.
Mm, yeah.
You're leapfrogging over the prism of mind into direct reality.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. You have a wonderful way of uh, putting these things into words. I must say, I really compliment you in terms of just you have a real gift to uh, articulate what is so difficult to speak about so often. It just flows so naturally from you.
Well, thank you. That's nice of you to say, but it truly is the lack of a self here, a
Uh,
localization of a seeming self here that allows for clear communication.
yeah, right,
The more I can let go of any sense of self here, the more just raw reality can be known.
right. And it can just flow through you.
Mhm. And there's
Yeah,
no me for it to flow through. There's just raw reality.
uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's just, I mean, a very strong reminder to, um, you know, just zoom back slightly and just to be asking myself that, asking, not my, asking that question, who's experiencing this in this moment.
Another thing that we can carry out into our daily lives is just truly experiencing things without filter. Asking yourself, what is this? Even if you think that you know what something is, asking yourself, no, what really is this? Beyond what my
Mhm.
mind is telling me what this is,
Right.
what actually is this? Is another way to just encounter this in a pure way.
Yeah.
Discover that there is no self between experience. There is no self here interpreting experience. There is just what is. And the more we can
Right.
rejoin with that, the more we regain our uncontracted, undivided nature.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's ultimately what everybody longs for. Everybody longs for happiness. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants love and intimacy. Everybody wants to feel a sense of freedom. And that's what this
Yeah.
is.
Right.
It's just the human tendency to assume that we gain those qualities through an objective experience or through material, apparent material that disconnects us from the qualities of our nature that are already inherent in the one that's looking.
I'm just trying to feel into this right now. I mean, I'm sitting in a very familiar place, and sensing it in a different way somehow. But I can't quite describe how.
And you
Just
don't need
has
to.
this, yeah,
Just joining presence with presence is what this is. It's not your presence and the presence of the room. It's just presence. Where
right.
is the border amongst presence? Is there any division amongst presence?
No.
Whether you look inside your body or inside your mind or out at the walls or out at the bananas, in presence, is there any division amongst it?
No.
Investigating in this way allows life to blossom. The mind can be a fun prism to look through, a fun tool by which infinite consciousness can look back at itself. But it's not meant to be lived in.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good expression. It's not meant to be lived in, for sure not.
And that's partially why you kind of get this feeling when you are out in nature, is because nature isn't living inside a mind.
Right.
A tree isn't living inside a mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't know inside from outside. There's
Yeah.
less of a sense of division, even in animals, between animal life and just life. It's kind of just all an orchestra of life, and it seems to just be higher order mammals that seem to kind of create this division, which is a fun tool. It can be a really fun tool. We can build all sorts of cool shit with the mind. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not meant to be lived in.
Right.
And if when we assume that we are this person self, this body mind, we assume its limitations. And
Yes.
consciousness itself does not. It never does. And that's why we feel separate from our true nature.
Mm.
We feel separate from our true nature. We never
Yeah.
could be, but
Yeah.
this contraction makes you feel separate from your true nature.
Yeah.
Consciousness itself is already unlimited, undivided, and whole
Right.
as universal reality.
Yeah.
There's a light which shines that illuminates all of this. That's what I call the absolute. The light, the pure light that shines through the prism of mind is undivided.
Mm.
And so when I prompted you to kind of take a panoramic view, pull back from the prism of mind a little, and view all of this equally as just presence, you're rejoining your absolute nature from that perspective. Awakening in the lived human life kind of feels just like a panoramic, first a zooming out into a panoramic view of just presence and you as that. And then as you investigate everything, you realize that everything that you see is also you as this consciousness. This is the self, the unified self, looking through all these different prisms of mind,
Mm.
viewing its own nature.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, I must say, just, I mean, it sounds so simple. And I mean, I know you're going to say, yes, it is. um, and 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 yet at the same time, there's a complexity around it, I guess.
From the mind's point of
Maybe
view.
not from a mind, exactly, right? Intellectually, I understand that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just feel that I just need to step through that doorway, and yeah, you'll be the first to know when that happens.